The following is an exclusive production of Minutemen Command. The Flagship Pod with your hosts, ESPN personalities Mike Corey and Rene is on the air. Brought to you by Todd Fritz Roofing with insight and info from UMass and Mac Insiders. From the Command Studios, here are your hosts, Mike and Rene.
Hey, welcome in, everyone. Another episode. We are less than 2 weeks away from the kickoff of this 2025 season. Rene, what's going on, man?
What's going on, Mike? How you been, buddy?
You ready to rock and roll? We got a big episode today.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, week 0, it's here. College football is here. This is the official start. Not everyone's going, but this guy's going. So
you got a crazy schedule.
This is a crazy week. So I'm going to start off, and I know by the time this airs, I'm sure ESPN will put the release out, but if not, oh well, because I've been getting bombarded. So I have 3 games in 6 days to start this thing off. So I'll be Saturday. I will be in Thibodaux, Louisiana, Incarnate Word, ranked 4th in the nation in FCS, taking on Nichols. Southland Conference game, ESPN 2, 1 o'clock. It's actually the first American game on TV. The Ireland game, Kansas State, Iowa State will be on at noon on ESPN. My game comes at 1 at ESPN 2. So if you want to see some really good FCS teams, go to ESPN 2. And then Thursday night, the next week, I have Jacksonville State at UCF right here. So a little Big 12 matchup in Conference USA. Looking forward to that. And then I get on a plane Friday morning, fly to Charlotte. I have the Dukes Mayo Classic kickoff, Appalachian State and Charlotte. So 3 games in 6 days, but I wouldn't want it any other way. I'm ready to go. And you, week 1, you're going out to beautiful Provo, Utah. We've been there before, BYU.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. We got Portland State at BYU to kick it off for me. And then I tell you what, you're rivaling the Kirk Herbstreit schedule right there, buddy. With 3
I don't have a private jet, but I will fly Delta.
You got more dogs.
I won't get the fanfare, but listen, I love doing it, and I'm ready for it, man. I'm ready for the season.
Dude,
I tell you what, I've talked to a bunch of play-by-play people this year, including you and Courtney Lyle, my Saturday partner. Prep has been hard because, for instance, so I just told you 6 games, right? I have a couple other ones on the schedule too. 7 of my first 8 teams that I'm doing, I did last year. So that usually makes it easy. Although 6 of the 7 have new coaching staffs, all of them have 40, 50 new players. It's just a different time in college football.
Yeah, no, nothing's easy anymore. I don't even take last year's roster and try to update it. I just revamp and put a whole new one together because it's always new. But all right, well, let's get right into it. Awesome episode coming up here today. Let's bring in our guest. We've got the athletic director for UMass, Ryan Bamford, is joining us here today to go over a bunch of stuff. Ryan, thanks so much, man. How you doing?
Great, guys. I love being with you. Thank you for the invite. And Rene, you got to get your agent to negotiate those private jet opportunities, man. That schedule, holy cow.
Well, I got to get an agent first. See, I do all that. Ryan, when my boss emails me, he's like, can you do this one? And then he always puts in there, you can say no. I learned a long time ago in this business.
Don't say no.
Never say no.
No.
But I love doing it. It's fun. It's exciting. And I've been sitting on my keister. So I'm ready to go.
Yeah, maybe Rene needs his own private NIL situation there, Ryan. We're going to have to figure that out.
he was a heck of a player. He would have gotten money back in the day.
Right?
Trust me. He would have gotten
it. Ryan, we get that question all the time. Would you have left back then if you were getting the money? And without hesitation, everyone's like, yeah. It's just different now, And if it was back then, people would have went. You kind of can't blame the kids. You just hope the kids leave for the right situation. And I think that gets lost in it a lot because a lot of times it's all money, but it's not necessarily the right thing for the kid. But
no, but listen, capitalism is alive and well, and we've got that built in to our society. But at the same time, I don't think that the life lessons, man, when you have to have resilience and you go through something, and not every program or university is a great fit for a young person. So we certainly understand the need at times to transfer, but I think we're losing some of those things that are inherently built into college athletics that are developmental. And unfortunately, that's been a challenge in the sports of football and basketball in particular.
Yeah. Well, let's get right into it. Like I said, we're week 0, but really a week and a half away from UMass home opener against Temple, but not just football, all the UMass sports that are in the MAC. A lot of the fall sports have already started. Just give us your overall thoughts and excitement on being in the MAC and looking forward to that first football kickoff game at McGurk.
Well, I'll tell you, since, the last 18 months or so since we made the announcement, it's been, hurry up and wait. And we've been slowly being integrated into MAC meetings and things like that. And I'm excited now to turn the page July 1 officially. But, we just played our first soccer game last week, and Coach Doyek's team beat St. John's 1-0. So we're 1-0 in the early goings here and in the middle of August. And we're excited to get into MAC play. Certainly, I think it's a really good fit for us across the board. Obviously, we can talk about what it'll do for our football program to stabilize that program and the challenges of being an independent. I think for our Olympic sports, a lot of similarities to the Atlantic 10. And shoot, we've had a lot of success in our Olympic sports, going to NCAA tournaments across the board. We had 10 teams in the NCAAs in some participation last year, one of our best years in the last 25. And so, sports like men's soccer, field hockey, getting off to good starts here, women's soccer, all going to be highly picked in their leagues. And we're excited to get the fall kicked off for certain.
Yeah, let me just ask a follow-up to that in terms of the other sports, because I know, the average fans would be like, yeah, it's football and basketball. Look at, you've got to control all this stuff. I don't think they realize, like, hey, you got all these other sports too. That tell me how that helps and combines the entire athletic department, when hockey does really well or when soccer does really well or whatever. I know it's not bringing in millions of dollars, but tell me about how that encompasses as you control an entire athletic department.
Yeah, I mean, look, we had 3 teams in the Elite 8 last year across our department, and that's a point of pride for us, to have men's soccer and field hockey make deep runs in the fall, to have men's cross country win their first championship since 2008, and then to obviously have Coach Carville's group, losing the quarterfinal round to the eventual national champ for the second year in a row, and in a game that I thought we were the better team 5-on-5. And so, it was a really good year, and success breeds success across the department. There's no doubt that we have coaches looking at their peers and saying, what are you doing? What's the special sauce, the team dynamics, the recruiting structure, the resource, spend and really being smart about that and strategic about it to build a winner. And we've got some really, really good coaches. So we're fortunate, but at the end of the day, like most programs, most departments, I think football and men's basketball in particular are big drivers for us. And we recognize that. And we need to be successful in those 2 programs, along with the offerings and the success we have in the Olympic sports, to ultimately be the Massachusetts athletics department that we want to be.
All right, let me get to more football here, like in terms of let's go with the stadium, okay? Because everybody's just the stadium. All right, the press box, brand new.
Hot button question.
Yeah, years ago, the Performance Center, but just in general. I mean, I know we've sat there and talked about this ad nauseum, the stands and the ball going over the thing. What's the deal with the stadium, the vision? Where are we at with that? In your thoughts?
Yeah, so obviously the team spaces are really, really good. The football performance center is great. We just went through a $2 million overhaul of our locker room, so the spaces our guys and our staff are in every day are really good and complementary of what we want to do as a program. There's no doubt the stadium needs work, and we're trying to fold this into a bigger initiative from a campus perspective, because the reality is this, that with a stadium that's 60 plus years old, you don't have a lot of philanthropic interest in trying to generate funds to do something that's going to really ultimately overhaul what you have. And because you use it 6 times a year in football and 1 time for commencement, it's a building, it's a structure that doesn't get a lot of use throughout the year. So, we're challenged by what the state will do to support that. Our approach has been to think about, what are the things? I mean, from a size perspective, we want the ability to grow and go bigger if we need to, but we don't need to right now, right? It's at 18,000. we're in a good spot. Let's build in that 18,000. Let's build a winning program that can generate, you got supply and demand challenges as you have more success. And we're hopeful for that here in the next couple of years under Coach Harris-Simiak. But from my standpoint, it's like, what are the things that we're providing to our fans that, honestly, in this market are expected and necessary? And so the aesthetic of the stadium needs to change. The front porch of the stadium, from Bernie Dallas Mall as you come onto campus, that whole look in the ticket gates, when you come in, we have to make that a welcoming environment with our concessions, with the merchandising offerings. And so we're going through a bigger strategic plan relative to that. We've got a 256-page document that's outlined what our opportunities are there, what the costs associated with really reimagining that front porch again. And then what are the things when you get inside the stadium? We've got our sound system has to be better. We've got to get, LED lighting and advertising and more of the technology in the stadium. Obviously, adding 6-7 years ago, the video board was big for us, but we've got to really reimagine, repackage what that feel is in the actual stadium for our fan base. And then there's a whole host of other things like looking at, upgrading some ADA components, our bathrooms. So it's just when I got here in 2015, guys, we didn't have running water throughout the stadium. We were using porta-johns, right? And as an FBS program, we were the last ones that were in that situation. 4 years in, we were able to get the bathrooms, but it's been a grind to try to do little things to make the experience better and to ultimately give our football staff the ability to recruit to an environment, to a home that kids want to come and play in.
Now, Ryan, not that I'm sorry, what would the state or people recognize that if you built something really big that would be multi-purpose for other stuff like concerts and all that? I'm not saying anything you don't already know, but why wouldn't it be like, hey, we're doing more than just football here, okay? That way is a reason to put a crap load of money behind it and do all those things that you're talking about. Like we agree with everything you just said, but it's like, well, when would that happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the bigger campus initiative here is to look at what the housing inventory is now, with Southwest being really beyond its life expectancy and capacity, and that's obviously a great a fabric of the university, that Southwest corridor and the amount of students there. And so thinking about what does it look like if we tie the McGurk complex and Gladchuck complex, where Feel Hockey plays more closely to campus. Do we create residential opportunities down there that now you can pull that into those things into the stadium, and you can build one of the ideas that we have is to build a dining facility right down there. If there's residential facilities down there and housing, you all of a sudden now you build a dining facility into one side of the stadium that on game day becomes your club. Yeah. Right. So every day of the year, the students are looking out onto the field to maybe football's practicing, maybe ultimate frisbees, in there working, or a club sport, which we host in the stadium as well throughout the year. But we have that built in because we need that regular programming to get investment in the stadium. That's the reality. And so, Mike, your idea, we absolutely, if we're going to invest in it, we want to do more things there. We want it to be multifaceted, to do, concerts and things like that. And so, I think this is an opportunity for us to be plugged into a bigger campus initiative. But at the same time, I'm hopeful we're going to be able to, we've got some things that we're going to push on and do this year. And then really you're going to see, I think, start to see some things take shape in the next 2 or 3 years, with the idea that there's some short-term investment, anywhere from 10 to 20 million we can make. And then the long-term $80-100 million investment has to be plugged into a bigger campus initiative. And that's what we're hopeful for. And we're talking through and really trying to exhaust all those leads at the current moment.
Cool.
And just to put a bow on it, because someone from X, and I know how we all love X when stuff gets sent to us, right? A fan had sent something about the McGurk master plan, 1 to 2 years, short investments, and 8 to 10 years. Those are a $50 million, $100 million investment, right? So that's all still in play, right?
All still in play. And, again, I've got a document here, a conceptual study for McGurk that we've been pouring through. I've got another meeting with our chancellor later this month and our finance folks to look at some of those. We phased it, right? Because we're not going to be able to take the big bite at the apple. But what are the things that we can do for 10 million, 12 million right now? And then, ultimately 5 years down the line, put another, 10 or 20 million in, or do we have the ability to really carve out a bigger project? We're looking at those things along with like a permanent indoor facility for our student athletes and really for the students to use, not just the bubble, but to actually do a big brick and mortar field house. So, all of that ties in, and we're at a point right now. I mean, the challenge is we had a ton of momentum. We've had a ton of momentum in the last 6 or 9 months with a lot of these facility things. And I'll finish up with this because I know you guys have a lot of other questions. But here's the reality, guys. Higher ed has changed considerably in the last 9 months under this executive branch, right? And the challenges with research dollars and federal aid and things like that. And so, we're now where we were really a priority. You're starting to figure out, like, are we able to fund all the things that we need to do on this campus in this current environment? So that's sort of something that's leaked in here that we're trying to manage. And I know that I can tell you this: we've got support from our trustees, from our president, from our chancellor to try to do a lot of this stuff. And without that, it just doesn't get done. So we're hopeful that we can keep pushing the rock up the hill and get a lot of these things done in the next couple of years.
No, great stuff. Thanks for getting that out there. And the other thing I love about our campus, we have so much space. So really it's a blank canvas. Once you guys know what you want to do and get that funding, it's going to be awesome. Let's turn the page here. Scheduling model. Everyone wants to talk about scheduling. I know you've talked about this before, but maybe some people listening to this podcast or watching this podcast haven't heard you talk about it because, of course, 2 Power Fours this year, which isn't going to be the norm. No UConn. So talk about the scheduling model, and will UConn come back as kind of a rivalry game at the end? And a lot of people would love to do a trophy game. So give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so we're obviously winding down and trying to, reimagine the schedule. I've had to unload a bunch of games. It's easy. The MAC opponents we had in future schedules, they obviously naturally dropped off, right? But it's trying to unwind a number of series and do it strategically and smartly and reduce the financial impact. So we've moved a ton of things to future years. The ideal schedule for us would be one game where against a Power Four we're bought, a guarantee game for us. Right now, you're right. We've got Missouri and Iowa this year. We've got Central Florida, Rene, down in your neck of the woods, Central Florida, and Rutgers next year. In future years, that'll be one game. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Then to play one FCS opponent. So buy one game that comes into our stadium to make sure we can get to 6 games. We do want to play UConn every year. UConn has been awesome about when we this schedule flexibility. I've had to go to UConn and say to David, their AD, who's just a great colleague, is say, hey, can we take a year here, a year there to allow me to get this schedule right? And he's been great. He's like, no problem. I get it. We're an independent. We've got flexibility to help. So ideally, we'll get UConn back on, and we'll have them there every year. That's the goal. And then the fourth game would be another group of 5 that, ideally it would be an Army.
Or a Temple.
Temple, Army. Somebody, mixing in maybe some of those traditional rivals, an App State, a Georgia Southern, some of those that we played in our FCS time. JMU, Delaware, right? Getting those guys on. So those are the natural fits. If I can get those mixed in over the course of the next decade plus, that would be ideal. But we're going to have to. We had to push a couple games back, and so you'll see some of those get loaded in future years. But I would anticipate that within the next probably year and a half or so, we'd have all the way through probably 2035 built out for the most part. So
it's crazy. Like, why does it have to go out so far like that? I mean, because so much changes so rapidly these days. I mean, especially basketball. Like, we already know basketball. Like, the coach, if you ever get a weird schedule of basketball, it's like, well, I was planning on having blank and blank and this, and then all of a sudden shit hits the fan, and they're like, oh no, why are you playing Duke? Like, well, we expected. does that hurt you? Like in football, I mean, like to go out that far and then like stuff changes? Like,
yeah, I mean, when you're an independent, you could pivot quickly on things, right? Because you had 12 games and you could move stuff around and you could fill in gaps for other programs. Now, with us having 8 built-in fixed games in the MAC, you've got to go out and get your bye game and get a game against the Power 4, and you got to really do that in advance now because the dollar figure, you got to lock in those contracts. So those through the end of the decade here are pretty much good to go. We got to get one, I think, in 29 or 30, and then again on the other side, getting that FCS built in. That's kind of the last one we do, but we're always going to try to play some New England schools if we can there, just so that we can get maybe their fan bases to travel. And whether it's a Maine or a UNH, that like a Rhode Island, who we've had history with in the past, I think those are good ones to get for us. So it's and thing is, you don't want to wait too long because it's the market. Like, what does the market bear? And you don't want to get stuck. So we kind of do it to ourselves, Mike, to your point, and doing it that far in advance. I mean, I said this last year, when we built Missouri into the schedule and had a home and home with them, they were 3-9 that year.
See,
they're going to get it going in the SEC. Like, they may be at the bottom of the SEC, and we get an SEC opponent to come. They came in last year; they were 10th in the country. You can't determine that 4, 5, 6 years in advance.
Exactly. That's what happens. But if everybody's doing it, you got to do it too. So it's not like we're the only ones trying to do this 10 years out.
That's right.
Hey, we've been talking to like a ton of the staff for football. Joe has been awesome. We're going to have him on pretty soon here as well. What a complete turnaround in terms of the staff and their personalities and their attitude and what they're bringing to the table right now. Like, I know we haven't played yet, but we're just pretty psyched, from like who we've talked to. I want to get your take on it too, because you guys, I mean, they put together a pretty good staff.
He's put together a great staff. The coaching experience on this staff, I would argue, is as good as we've had in my time here. And I think as an FBS program, he's got really experienced coordinators. We've got a great mix of guys across both sides of the ball, and then having a special teams coordinator who's really talented, I think will pay big dividends for us this year and beyond. And so that's been big. You guys met with George Green last week. George has been awesome, really in that sports performance realm. He's been a great addition, his staff, and so it's in that way. I think we're poised under Joe, and Joe's been a tremendous partner, and he's got a ton of energy. He's so organized. His work ethic is really, really strong. And these guys, I think they're building relationships that are going to allow us to retain guys. And look, we're putting resources behind it to win. And we've said that when we announced Joe, even before, when we came out with our strategic vision for football. We want to win, and we're going to put the money behind it to do it. And I think you're seeing that in the way that we built our staff and the way that we built our roster. And, hopefully we can stay healthy. I think that's the thing everybody's thinking, as you go into the year, you want to make sure you get all the guys to the dance. And as we get to the Temple game, we want to make sure we're as healthy as we can be. And then just really kind of go from there. And I can tell you the excitement around being in the MAC, competing against that peer group, and what Joe's been able to do with his staff, with a number of them having MAC experience, I think is really kind of a unique and awesome thing for us.
Yeah, we're just trying to look at this too, like, realistically, and like understand the situation where it's like there's a way more resources here. The staff is different. You had more money to put. It's almost like, I get it. We've been in FBS for a decade here now, and we can go back in time all we want. Like, oh, what the hell? No, it's almost like it kind of starts kind of now, right? I mean, it's almost like we had to lose, right? I mean, to get to this point, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, look, those were lean years, right? And I don't. They inform what we do going forward, but there's a reason why we're going to put them in our rearview mirror, and we're going to go win now, right? It's time to win. This is sort of the rebirth. This is 2.0. This is where we need to be. We've learned from where we've been. When we left the MAC 10 years ago, we were not well resourced. We were not ready for FBS football. And that's not, I'm not blaming anybody for that, we've had to take our lumps because of it. And look, here we've gone. We've invested over time, and now I think it's going to, with this next hurdle and this next level of investment from the institution, from our fan base, from our donor base. This is an opportunity for us to now meet this new moment in college athletics, and in a sport that is, really, really impactful ultimately to where we want to go as a department. And so, I think we're ready for that, and we're certainly resourced and in a position to take advantage of it.
Perfect segue to the next question. So the next question is Revshare, NIL, and I just want to echo those thoughts. Like, I've been associated with UMass football since 1991. Okay,
yeah.
And I'm an optimistic guy. A lot of people come at me on X, and they go at you, Ryan. I know that. I'm a glass half full guy. I just am. And people call me a cheerleader. Damn right I'm a cheerleader, because I gave my heart and soul to that university and that football program, and I want to see it succeed. And I'm optimistic every year, but I can honestly say this year, from what I've seen, who I've talked to, what I've been around, the commitment is there from you guys in the athletic department, the coaches, but it just seems like the faculty, staff, the state in large, we still need to get them a little better, but I think they're coming. And I just feel more optimistic about this year than I ever have. So I'm really excited to see what Joe Harris-Simiak and this team can do. And so with that said, we'll roll in. For people that don't know, the House Settlement was agreed upon, $20.5 million, but we all know those are just a big time program. So explain to people what our Revshare is, and I know it increases each year, so kind of explain that to everybody. And also let them know where we sit in the MAC, because at the end of the day, it's apples to apples. We need to compare with the teams in our conference.
Yeah, we'll see ultimately where the MAC schools end up landing. I think we have a pretty good idea, and I think we will be right at the top in terms of our additional benefits, our revenue sharing or NIL opportunities for student athletes, especially in the sports of men's, women's basketball, football, even in ice hockey. I think we'll be in a real position of strength there. And then the additional benefits that we've rolled out for a number of our Olympic sports, especially our women's sports, we will be competing with Power 4 schools in terms of the level of financial commitment that we're making in those sports. So across the board, this isn't just people think it's just the football, basketball piece, and it's not. I mean, we've really been smart about the ways that we've reallocated and reimagined our budget structure, our revenue structure, and then turning around and what that means from an expense standpoint, especially for student aid. For us right now, the combination of what we're doing in revenue generation, the move, guys, to the MAC for us, it created a lot more revenue from a multimedia rights agreement, just in terms of what our abilities were to grow revenues over time. And so for us, that goes right into this now formula of how we're going to support student athletes in this new structure. And so, we've been able to grow our budget significantly in the last decade in my time here, and we're going to grow it even more. And we'll be beyond 60 million. We were at 35 million 10 years ago. We'll be beyond 60 million in the next 2 years. And for us, I would say arguably the most important ingredient is who are the young men and women in your programs, right? How are they able to allow you to build competitive success? So we focused on that, focused on, what our coaching salaries are to make sure we get the best coaches in here, and then in their staffs. And then what does that look like in terms of how we're, imagining what the opportunities are for student athletes to monetize their NIL. And so from a football standpoint, in the MAC and in the group of 5, we'll be in a really, really good position. I know Joe feels really good about it. There is a growth pattern there, a growth phased in growth opportunity over the next 2 years to get to an even better position. Same thing in men's, women's basketball in the MAC. So, and then we'll study it. I think everybody's kind of anxious. Everybody's kind of figuring out their place and foothold here. And then once you kind of understand where you are, and then how does that impact recruiting battles? How does it impact retention, your ability to keep kids first and foremost, and then your ability to go attract student athletes, both out of the portal and from a first year perspective. We got to live it a little bit to understand exactly what our sweet spot is in this sort of ecosystem. But I think we're in an advantageous position as it relates to some of the lights keep going off. This is our energy right here.
Yeah, you got to use the
So we're in a good spot, and I think our coaches feel that. Like they've got the resources at their fingertips to win. And it's just, you got to live it a little bit to know exactly how you can manufacture it and sustain it.
And you hit on something good too. I mean, it's just, this isn't a UMass thing. This is a all university thing. Everyone needs to live it. Everyone's going through it. And talking about the UMass 2.0, kind of the rebrand here this year, I think it's all aligned really well with this Revshare and the house settlement coming right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was what I said to our trustees and to our chancellor and president was, look, we're going to a new league. It's a new era in college athletics. Like, these are the things we have to do if we're going to, not just like people are trying to figure out how to survive. I don't want to just survive. I want to grow this thing to a point that we're all looking at it and saying, all right, in this era of college athletics, UMass is all in. And we put our chips in the middle of the table and we're going and we're going to do this. And, it's everything from the stadium to the everyday operating expenses that we have, and then to what our community does to support this thing ultimately. And that's what's going to move this needle for us. And so that decades from now, we're looking back and saying, all right, we did all the right things. We hit the right buttons. We had the right tools. And now we look at where we are.
It's going to be a glorious day. And I think it's going to happen sooner than we think when the fans start bitching about what bowl we're going to. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. It's going to be a fun thing.
They're not going to bitch.
Nice thing. I'll take it.
We're going to the Bahamas Bowl, so nobody's bitching about any of that. All right. But Ryan, help me understand a little bit with this, like the money and the schools can pay now and NIL. And I know we have the ScriptU Scholarship Society, all that stuff. Just give me the breakdown of like a person who wants to help contribute and help see our programs do well. Like, what are we doing now? Like, how does it all work together?
Well, here's what we've done. We've coordinated everything that you have from a ticket buying experience. Now if you want any opportunities to have access to things in our department, whether it's, access in seating or hospitality or parking, you've got to be a member of our ScriptU Scholarship Society. And that ultimately 100% of ScriptU, 100% goes to our student athletes. Not one part of that goes into any other operational expense that we have. So it's a tax deductible gift. You can make pledges. And we're hoping we'll raise over $1 million in ScriptU. Every aspect of that will go into our scholarship fund to fund opportunities for the young people in our program. Our scholarship budget's going to go from, it was $12.5 million 2 years ago. It'll go to $17 million in the next 2 years. Wow. And so it's, in the course of 4 or 5 years, it's going to grow $5 million. And the reality is that we can't do that alone. We've had to reimagine our fiscal sort of parameters as a department. We've cut some things to make sure that we can shift expenses into the things that matter, all the student facing opportunities as well as student aid. And then we've got to drive revenues, right? And one of the revenues that is really important to us is philanthropy and making sure that we can support, and through ScriptU, support these opportunities for our young people. And this is the world we live in. And you can fight it, and there's a lot of people that have wanted to, and there's a lot of folks that are in our donor base and fan base that don't like where this college athletics enterprise is going. It's here to stay, right? And we've got to activate within it to win. And so we need everybody's help, especially as I mentioned, like higher ed right now is under some threats, and so we've got to carve out our own lane here as a department, and we need as many people coming and helping us and being part of that. And the best part is when we win, we're going to win because of everybody. It's not going to be because of a couple of people or because the university said. It's going to be because it took a village, and a village showed up to do it.
Well, speaking of showing up, that's the one thing I want to get to, because it's like, I can't stand it. Like whenever he's just like, whoa, if you win, then we'll have people there. It's like, no crap. Like that's so easy. It's so easy. And I don't want to go back like 30 years ago, which I know, we're working on this with the documentary UMass basketball. It's like, yeah, that's 30 years ago. Okay. We're number one team in the nation. I'm sure the place will be sold out, and it was. So it's like, I don't even want to talk about it. It's like an extreme example, but for right now, what the heck is going on? Like, how do we get more fans in the
fan engagement?
Yeah, fan engagement, football, basketball. Like, it's not directed at you. I'm just like, it's embarrassing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I know you feel that way. Like, what are we going to do? Like, what can we do?
Well, I think you're starting to see it across the industry. We've made it really easy for people to stay home, right? Because we got guys like you bringing the broadcast right to people's living rooms,
Right.
where the kitchen is 15 steps away and the bathroom's 10 steps away, and we're losing some of that connectivity. It ultimately, here's where it lands. It has to start with our students. It has to start with our students, our faculty, our staff. They're right here in our backyard. We've got to get them engaged. Ultimately, I hate to say it, winning is the greatest marketing tool. We've watched it in hockey, especially. We watched it in basketball for so many years, even when football's had success. And we're really, we're doing a big pep rally for our students the night before the Temple game, this upcoming and 2 Fridays coming up here. We've got a number of marketing initiatives that we're going to undertake now with the Maction games in November, those midweek games, really trying to get faculty and staff, hey, when the day ends at 5 in your office, come down, tailgate for an hour and a half, come into the stadium and watch us, on ESPN, be part of a nationally televised opportunity for this, for our brand and for this university. But I think it starts with getting the students, because ultimately the students are then your ticket buyers when they leave here. And so we've got to engage the Western Mass population. We're trying to do some more things in Springfield to engage that community. I think in basketball, the amount of inventory, 16, 17 games, you've really got to be surgical, and you got to figure out what games you want to put your resources into to get people there. So, we're obviously playing Boston College in Springfield. I know just naturally that's going to be one that our fans want to go to. But our first MAC game, December 20th against Kent State. Kent State's really good. Kent State's been a top MAC basketball program. The students aren't going to be here on December 20th. It's going to be right before the holidays. Like, we're going to put a ton of marketing initiative behind that to try to get people. It might be that people are coming back for the holidays to see their families. Well, come. It's a Saturday afternoon. We want you to come and be part of that and have us kick off and start out 1-0 in the MAC. So just once you get your schedule built, you figure out what are those opportunities to really engage people. And we're rolling out I think a pretty good marketing plan for the men's and women's basketball programs. Football, we're going to try to crush a number of these things. We've got Buffalo for family weekend. We've got Western Michigan for homecoming. 2 great October weekends when the weather will be good. The leaves will be changing. So good opportunities there. And then, I think we're going to try to do some neat things around the November games to get people to come and have a good, I'm just wondering who's in charge of the weather on a Tuesday night in November against NIU, when it's potentially cold and, hopefully not raining or snowing. But those will be important wrinkles to the schedule.
Yeah.
Hey, I got one more kind of, and then I'm good. And I think Mike had a basketball question maybe at the end. Thoughts on, and you mentioned it because the first home action game, which, oh, by the way, we're gonna talk to the boss and see if maybe me and Mike can possibly get on that Northern Illinois game. And what that reminds me of, what I want to ask you was thoughts on conference realignment, because it's Northern Illinois' last year in the MAC. They're going to the new Mountain West. We saw some movement in Conference USA and Sun Belt. So overall thoughts on realignment. What do you do as an athletic director? Because you got to be proactive, and I'm assuming you're constantly talking to Commissioner Steinbrecher, as all the commissioners are, because the commissioners have to be very proactive. And it seems like there's a lot more FCS schools, Ryan, that want to make this jump up looking for a home. So just give us your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, as I said for a few years now, like grow comfortable with being uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
In this space, like change is inevitable and it's not going to stop anytime soon. You're going to see in the next 8 years, as multimedia right agreements change and shift all the way through 2034, when the ACC deal expires and sunsets, you're going to see a ton of things happen in the marketplace. And it may not necessarily mean realignment, churns, but I think you're going to see some movement still. And you're already seeing the positioning across the Power 4 and now the Power 2 and what they're doing. And, candidly, I worry about what it means for the group of 5 and how do we carve out our sweet spot and what it means for us in the future. But yeah, I'm constantly looking at that now that we're in other than us coming in Northern Illinois leaving, it's the only conference change the MAC has had in the last 25 years. So
right?
it's been a really stable conference. I don't think, I think at 12 schools when NIU leaves, I think we're in a really good spot. I don't think we want to get too big. And I think you're finding that 12 is a really good number, especially when you're thinking about sharing revenues.
Yeah.
And I think for us, it's, it's positioning. It's positioning in this new college football playoff. And then for us as a department, it's positioning for what's our future and how do we be the best UMass we can be in the MAC? And what does that mean for future opportunities in the MAC or otherwise? And I don't think anybody's got a crystal ball. If they tell you what's going to happen in the next 20 years, then they're nuts. So I think there's going to be a lot of things happening. We just have to keep winning. We just have to keep winning. We have to keep building pride. We have to keep building our brand. And we got to get football and hoop going. And that's right at the top of the priority list.
You don't have to comment on this, but I'm going to make a comment. I would love to see UConn in the MAC football only, but it's probably not going to happen. And I'm going to have to call my guy Thor Bjorn because I would love to see Rhode Island doing some upgrades at their stadium. I would love to see them in the MAC just because it brings you a little more, Northeast New England to do it. But that's just me. You don't have to comment on it, Ryan.
Well, listen, hey, rivalries, losing the Rhode Island rivalry because we're not in the A10. I get that. That was a good basketball rivalry for us, good in Olympic sports. And we'll renew some of those rivalries as we get into future years. But, hopefully we can build a good one with Buffalo, and a flagship state campus in a contiguous state to us. And I'm excited about that.
Both Amherst, by the way. Amherst, New York, Amherst,
That's right.
So you got So if we can't have a trophy game with UConn, we got to have some type of Amherst trophy for Buffalo UMass. I mean,
we're working on it. We're working on it.
My final one, we a lot of football and then, with the basketball and their move to the MAC. And it's like, I said to some fans the other day, because this is, again, it burned me up. It's like, we need more support, period. Like, don't you dare be like, oh, what's the deal with, Kent State and Akron and all that. No offense, you guys weren't showing up for the Dayton VCU, those awesome games. Like, what I mean, when we needed you. Yeah. So it's like, I hate to say it, but it's like, just come out and support. And from what you've told us, sounds like the resources are well above and beyond, and we're going to be right at the top there. It doesn't mean we're going to breeze through the MAC. I'm just saying I want to get your take, and because everybody's up in arms a little with like, oh my gosh, basketball and all the tradition and all that from the A10. I get it. Were you with that based on having to make this move? Just we had to.
Yeah, that was obviously a major consideration here. And it was back before I took the job in 2015. It was the decision point, in 2014 when they had the choice to go to the MAC in all sports and decide to stay in the A10. And that year, the A10 had 5 teams in the men's basketball tournament. We haven't had 5 teams since, right? And now with the way that everything's positioned, and the way that the Power Four has carved out postseason opportunities, in particular in men's basketball, the A10 getting multiple bids, even when the tournament, if and when the tournament expands, that expansion is going to ultimately be for the middle of the Power Four conferences, the teams that are going 8-8, 9-9 in those leagues. That's who's going to get those bids ultimately, and so for us. The calculus was a little bit of, if we're going to be in a 1-bid league, I want to be in a 1-bid league where we like access. What's your chance and access for championship opportunities? And for us, I mean, whoever spends the most doesn't guarantee you win, right? But my goodness, it gives you a chance and it gives you a leg up. And so, for us, because we have hockey and football, against a St. Louis and a VCU and a Dayton, we weren't going to spend as much in men's basketball as those 3 programs in particular. But now in the MAC, we're going to be highly, highly resourced against those peers. And it's going to give us a great opportunity. Now we got to go take advantage of it. And I know Frank's excited about that. And we've talked at length about what those opportunities are and how we can build that success in. And look, if we're going to NCAA tournaments on a regular basis and have the chance to play in March and make runs in the NCAA tournament, then I think everybody's going to look back and say, okay, this is really good for the basketball brand and ultimately for the UMass brand as a department and as an institution. And that's the goal at the end of the day. And it doesn't matter if you're coming from the A10 or the MAC. And I get the idea of, look, we've been in it for 49 years and you have those rivalries and all those things. I love the history, but at the same time, you got to look at the next 49 years. You got to say what's our best opportunity for long-term sustained success, and it's to get our football program in the right space, in the right state, and ultimately that's going to help basketball too.
Awesome. Ryan, when this airs, it'll be 10 days till the Temple game. We are excited for this season, not just for football, for all UMass athletics. Thank you so much for joining us, taking this time out. It's been great, and I know the fans are going to love this podcast. Mike?
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Ryan.
No, you guys are great. I appreciate all the support and the way that you guys cover us. And it's been Minutemen Command. It's been awesome to be just kind of watching it and watching you guys grow. And I know it's a central hub for our fan base. So thanks for all the good work you guys do and for your love of this place, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon, Ryan.
All right, Ryan Bamford, the athletic director for UMass. That was good, Rene. Probably the longest one, but you're right. I think a lot of people are going to want to hear this.
Just so you guys know, Mike and I, the sweet spot for our pods is about 30, 35 minutes because we know we want you guys go for a walk, go for a jog, listen to it in the car, watch it. The hour ones, people just seem to tune out. But when we have a guest like Ryan Bamford, the athletic director, you go. And really 40, 45 minutes of good quality information that you guys can absorb and you hear it right from the horse's mouth, right? And I mean, that's the best thing for a fan.
I'm not worried about the time on this one. I'm just saying, but yeah, I mean, here's the thing, like just hearing him talk about some of that stuff, it's like, I want people to understand. And like, I know you get like attacked. They're like, oh, he's a cheerleader. It's like, look, you're right. We went to the school. We love the place. We want to see it do well. And I'm not sitting here and I hope people are thinking like, oh, they're just, like being partial to Ryan and everything he's trying to do. It's not easy. Like, I'm just trying to take it all in. And I want to hear him say like the state and the university and the athletic department and the money and the different NIL and the society, like there's a lot of stuff going on, so I'm just like saying, I get it. I know they're working hard and I'm just excited to see this change, but we don't know. Nobody knows what the future is going to hold, but it's like, at least they're trying. I mean, they're trying.
The commitment is there. There's no doubt about it. And here's the deal. We talked about the stadium and we know things need to get done. At the end of the day, if you're a UMass fan, UMass football fan in particular, you need to show up. You need to support the team. Game 1 against Temple, because regardless what the stadium looks like, that is not going to determine wins and losses. Okay. And this team is ready to start winning. Okay. And we've been through the schedule. We've done it all. There's no reason why this team can't win 6 games this year and break out and finally go to a bowl game as an FBS program. In my mind, there's absolutely no doubt. We've been through the schedule. We went through the schedule with Dustin Fox. You've been through it. I've been through it. There's 6 wins on this schedule. Will it be easy? Of course not. Of course not. But it's not supposed to be easy, right? So support them. Be positive. Listen, if they're screw ups, you're going to go on social media and still bitch. We all do, right? But you can bitch in a positive way. You know what I mean? So,
correct.
Listen, I'm excited. I'm ready to go, man.
Yeah, and bitch with the right information too. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't have the right information, like you just sound like a smacked ass. Like, seriously, like that's why we try to do this. Like, to get a little bit more insight on what the heck's going on here. Ryan was awesome. Great to have him on. Hey, next week we got Jay Burnham,
the voice
of the Minutemen. He's going to join us as we prepare for Week 1 versus Temple. Rene, I know you're prepared because you got 3 games in 6 days. But have a great week, and we'll do it again next Wednesday.
See you, buddy.
All right. See you, man. Thanks, everyone.